the Trace Podcast. This is your host, Dan Dowdy, with my co-host here, Nathan Glass, owner of Lampasses Marketing.
Hello, hello.
Marketing extraordinaire, leadership extraordinaire. We're here to share part 2 of our series, Leading by Example. And if you listen to the previous episode, we talked all about emotional intelligence.
It was a good one.
If you haven't listened to it, press pause,
to it.
Go back to the previous episode. But today we're all about IQ, intellectual intelligence. You know, Nathan, as we were preparing for this, you mentioned something kind of interesting. You may want to share with the audience. Remember about how there's no way to really score EQ, but there is a way to score IQ.
Yeah, and I think that's why there's been more of a focus on IQ, is because it's easier. You can put a piece of paper in front of somebody, they fill in some bubbles, and you can give them a score for IQ.
Yeah.
So it's easier to measure. So it's easier to see, talk about, measure, etc. Whereas emotional EQ, emotional quotient, is harder, because if you wanted to do an emotional test, you'd have to like put somebody in a room with snakes and see how they respond, which is obviously not practical. So measuring emotional quotient is very difficult, and it's not really a thing. Like it is in the sense that like there's emotional stuff, but in the sense that like there's not an EQ, like an EQ as in a test to measure how good you are at it, like there is IQ, which is kind of interesting.
Hopefully somebody listening doesn't share a test with us.
Yeah, maybe
maybe there's one out there now.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can get a sense of it, but you know.
I like it. I like it. So as we get started today, we're going to go through 5 points of intellectual intelligence. Before we do, just want to say that we love our audience. We love the feedback we're getting, the reviews. We ask that if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe and share this with a friend. It does help us grow our audience organically. And you know, Built for the Trades, we're here to help you grow your business through leadership development. Whether you're a business owner or not, we're here to help you grow. Just fill the blank in through leadership development
with your family, with your business, all of it.
Yeah, all of it. So whatever it is that you're out there doing today, we just welcome you to this podcast. And you know, when I say intellectual intelligence, the first thing that people bring up is, well, I'm already an expert in my field. But you do want to be confident. You do want to have the knowledge, the skill set to be able to accomplish whatever it is you're out there doing. And so I'm just here to say that that's a part of it. But there's so much more to it. And today we're going to dive into other areas and really open your eyes to it. And going back to our previous podcast, like why we're working on leading by example is because people do what people see, you know, and it's as tough as it is, you know, the people that we lead are a direct reflection of us.
That's right.
And so if we want them to get better in a certain area, then we have to be better in that area first before we can ask them to get better. So today we're going to talk about saying no and boundaries. Number 2, problem solving and decision making. Number 3, innovation and creativity. Number 4, strategic thinking. And number 5, continuous learning. All right, let's do it. So saying no and boundaries. The description here is model the ability to decline tasks that don't align with your priorities. Show how setting boundaries and saying no when necessary contribute to maintaining a healthy work-life balance.
Saying no and boundaries also contribute to you achieving your goals, right? Your business objectives, better relationships, better quality of life, a lot of things, more than just healthy work-life balance, which I think is a part of it.
Model the ability to decline tasks that don't align with your priorities. It's exactly what you're saying. If you don't have goals, right? If you don't have priorities that are helping you get closer to where you want to be, kind of the end result, then it's hard to really, sometimes you're just in it. Right. You know, and you're in the weeds, so to say, and you don't really know where you're going, but everybody's asking you for your time, and you just want to make everybody happy, so you're just saying yes, you know, and you start to build that reputation as that yes person, and next thing you know, you've got a little bit of everything halfway done, but nothing actually complete. Yep. Or, you know, you're taking your energy and giving it to other people, and it's taking you away from your happiness, maybe from your family's happiness, or your marriage, or your ability to complete your job and do a good job, and it can really lead you down some bad paths.
Yeah, I think to your point, like first you have to know what your priorities are, right? And your priorities should be aligning with your vision for your business or yourself or your goals. So, you know, you have to take the time to step away and realize what those are, figure out what those are, and that should then, you know, help you understand what your priorities are, So then you can know what to say no to. And it's interesting, like once you do that and you kind of define these boundaries in your mind of like, okay, this is where I'm headed, this is what I want to do, then it becomes somewhat easy to go, okay, does this align? No, it doesn't. Okay. Then like you sort of let that make the decision for you in a lot of cases, because it's very clear, like this does not align, this does not help me achieve that, so it's off. And that's part of like, if you really want to achieve something, you're going to have to say no to a lot of other things, right? You can't achieve everything all at once. So saying yes to one thing is saying no to 1,000 other things.
So I want to take the audience kind of on a high level view of saying no. I've had a situation in my career before where I have been offered an opportunity. It was an opportunity to join another organization and to work with them. And it was an opportunity that at the time would have brought more money, better time, time management, work-life balance, things like that. And it was very tempting to say yes to that opportunity. And if I didn't know what my goals and priorities were, like my long-term, what I want to accomplish, I would have easily jumped on that opportunity. And that could have been something that diverted me away from what I truly wanted to get to. But the ability to know what that distance looks like and spend some time reflecting on it allows you to say, you know what, I love the opportunity, I would love to take it, but it's not aligning with my goals for the future. So I'm going to stay on the path in order to get there. That's a really high level example of staying true to who you are, even if it doesn't feel like it's the best thing at the moment that you're in right now.
No, that's good. But had you not had that bigger vision, right, to check in on and ask yourself, does this align to that? You probably would have said yes, right?
Yeah.
You sort of float from like, oh, well, this looks good to this looks good to this looks good, right? That's the beautiful thing of having a vision, a clear vision for where you want to go, is it helps you, say no to all the distractions, because they will come and they will be very tempting and they will be good.
Yeah.
I think that's the other part of it too, is saying no. You're saying no to a lot of good things, and that's okay. That's often along the path. I mean, it's easy to say no to the bad things, but I think it's harder to say no to the good, tempting things that they're good, and it would have been fine, right? Had you done that, it would have been okay. It would have been fine. You just wouldn't have achieved your larger vision.
Yeah, it was funny. I told somebody else that story. This person had some pretty good wisdom to share, and they said, well, how do you know that wasn't just a step to get you closer to where you want to go? So then it's like, man, you threw a wrench in my plan upside. It sounded so good. But it really goes back to just knowing what God's purpose is for your life. Right. And when you truly know that, and you're able to kind of take a step out of the weeds and look out to the distance and say, okay, God, what do you have for me? Is this a test to maybe take me away and see if I'm serious about pursuing that purpose you have for my life? Or is this a stepping stone that's going to help open up more doors to go to the next level? And well, we're going to go to decision making here in a minute, but it really is, it's really deep, right? To think about saying no and having boundaries. But even if you go down to the next layer of just running a business, there's always going to be opportunities. And I call them shiny objects.
Absolutely. And
if you put a visionary in front of a business with a little bit of money and time, you better just hold on.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to have an integrator by their side to help say, pump the brakes, not the time, not the resources. We're going towards this vision. Let's stay true to this vision. Otherwise, they may get there one day, but they probably took the detour route 10 times to get there and cost themselves a lot of money, a lot of failure, a lot of mistakes along the way, versus just taking that path directly towards your vision.
That's good. Reminds me that it's a Chinese saying or whatever, but like the death by 1,000 cuts idea, which is like, slowly die by 1,000 little things. And that's what I think of when I think of, if you don't say no to things, all those little yeses are eating away at your ability to stay true to your vision and really kind of work on your business, work on your life, your personal life, your marriage, whatever it is. All those little things eat away 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and don't allow you to accomplish it. Another kind of along those lines of being distracted by all the little things is I think the statistic is, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's like if you do not multitask, you are, generally speaking, 4 times more productive than if you do multitask. And that gets down to every time you switch tasks, your brain, there's sort of a cost. It costs you time to get back on track and get your mind around what you're doing. So there's kind of an opportunity cost every time you switch. But to me, it's kind of related to this, right? Like if you can keep saying no, then you can keep your focus on something and potentially be 4x more productive doing one thing than if you're trying to do 10 things all at once.
Man, that's good, Nathan. I like how you and really boiling it down just like that, all the way down from just the way you manage your time every day. You know, do you have a priority checklist? Do you have a good calendar that's organized? Or are you letting the world consume all the things? Because guess what? Emails calling for you. Social media is calling for you. Your coworkers are calling for you. Your spouse is calling for you. Your kids are calling for you. Your friends are calling for you. Everybody's calling for your attention, saying, hey, look over here, or look at me, give me your attention. But it's that ability to say no, and to know how, if I say yes to this, I'm saying no to this. You know? And when you look at it as that, you realize you can't say yes to this and yes to this and do them both well, like you said.
That's right.
You're not getting them done well. You're not being present. You're not being effective.
Yeah, that's good.
We'll just sit on that for a minute.
We'll just stew on that.
Yeah, awkward silence.
No.
All right.
Which, by the way, saying no, like start. If you're not used to that, that's really uncomfortable for you, because I know a lot of us, we want to achieve, we're people pleasers. I think both Dan and I rate pretty high on the people pleasing.
Yeah.
I would say start small with saying no, maybe at home, or with little things. Now, obviously be careful with your wife, but no, I'm just saying, like, practice it in a safer environment, saying no and getting used to that. And the more you kind of grow that no muscle, like, the easier it will be, and then you can take that into your work. So
when you say people pleasing, it just makes me cringe. Like, but you're right. It's something that I do. I have worked through my entire leadership career, and it's funny, a story about that is I had talked with, I forget who had mentioned that to me a while back, years back, about you should just be able to say no to people and not explain why you're saying no. You should just be able to say no and let them, they should just deal with it. Well, I was coming from a person who's not a people pleaser and who doesn't have that reputation. And so you take a people pleasing person by nature in me, and all of a sudden, instead of saying yes, I'm just saying no. It really upsets people because they don't know what they're expecting the Dan, right? They're not expecting the no Dan, they're expecting the yes Dan, or no because of this. And so I do warn people out there, as you start to transition into saying no more, you may have to take the next step, which is say no and explain why in the process, and then get to the point where you can just say no. Because really, people they shouldn't have to know why you're saying no. But if you're a yes person, just know there's a step along the way. You may want to take that step before you start really upsetting people by just saying no. And this leads directly over into step 2, which is problem solving and decision making. Approach complex problems with logical thinking and strategic decision making. Demonstrate how to analyze situations objectively and weigh pros and cons before making choices. It's kind of hard to be objective if you don't have goals, right?
That's right. Yeah, again, it helps you align everything to something.
And when you're dealing, like, if somebody's if we're in the process of making a decision, what is the goal? Like, what is the end result that we want to achieve here? And I think that's really key. And a lot of times, people will call me, business owners will call me and say, "Hey, Dan, I'm dealing with this situation. What should I do?" And I'm typically going to ask a couple different things. One may be like, what are your core values? Lean on those. That's pretty objective, right? We're looking towards something that's foundational. The next thing is like, what do you want to get out of this? Like, what's the goal? Once I know that, then I can help better direct that person. And man, sometimes we just forget that we even have a goal. Because we're just in it. We can't elevate out of the weeds and actually see what that goal is.
That's good.
And so I think that's really key when it comes to problem solving and making decisions. And the other thing is I would rather see somebody just make a decision, even if it's wrong, than to just stew on it forever and never make a decision.
That's good. I definitely, I tend to overanalyze, put off decision making, think that I need to learn more, know more, be an expert in something before I try something. So I've kind of, as I've gotten older, gone the opposite way, where it's like, especially, no, it depends, but if the stakes of the decision, if you say, okay, let's just try this, and the stakes are low, meaning all you're losing is a little time or a little money, or it's a small amount of money, small amount of time, right? And you can change your mind later, then really the stakes are low. So make a decision early, and by making that decision, now you're going to get real experience based on that decision, right? Which is going to inform you whether or not this was the right decision and keep going or not. Versus if you never made the decision and never tried something, you're just over here and it's just all in your head, right? It's like, oh, I just need to read another book, whatever. It's just all in your head. But once you start putting it into reality, you get real feedback, real experience. And so in other words, I kind of shifted from thinking I need to read more books and know more to no, I need to experience more by making decisions, applying things in the real world, and then use that information to either say yes or no and keep going. Now,
that's good. So if you do fail, you're learning and you're failing forward. So
yeah, that's right.
What happens to you, Nathan, though, when you do become very decisive, and it ends up being the wrong decision? Where do you go in your mind or your emotions when that happens?
Yeah, I think one, kind of deal with the emotions of the failure, and then two, get out of that as quickly as possible, get out of the negative state as quickly as possible, and then go to, what can I learn? How can I grow from this? What can I do differently next time, right? Like, it's already happened, past is the past, didn't work, fine. Now let's learn from it, because at the end of the day, that could be a huge win for you in any situation where it was a failure. There is obviously some things went wrong. So that's why it failed. So if you don't learn those things, then you're probably gonna repeat them the next time you try something. So to me, it's like you really can't lose if something fails if you learn from it and you try again. I like that. What's the saying? Something like, you really only fail when you stop trying.
Yeah.
Right? So small failures along the way are really just opportunities to learn.
I like how self-aware you were, your emotional intelligence leading up to that. Just being self-aware, you explained to everybody listening exactly how your mind thinks and who you are, and then you went ahead and said, that's why I'm more decisive. I just want you to know that's next level, and there's a lot of people who never even reach that point of being self-aware. Like they will just ho-hum it forever and never make a decision because they've never been taking the time to learn about themselves through taking an Enneagram or a DISC or something like that, or having the right people around you who can help you see those areas. And I think the next step, like you said, is to make the decision. But I feel like when you make a decision and you're not a very decisive person, the first thing that happens is that decision's the wrong decision, and then you beat yourself up because you made the decision too quick. You said, dang it, if I would have just waited and studied it and did my normal thing, it wouldn't have been the wrong decision.
Right.
And some people never recover from that.
Yeah.
That's that pain point, right? That we talked about in the previous podcast, that you lean back on that pain point, you say, ow, that hurt, I'm not going to do that again. And so you're stuck in this little box you put yourself in. Instead of saying, you know what, that hurt, let me learn from it, like you said, let me go at it again. And then each time you're more decisive, quicker, you get better, right? And so you're turning that emotional intelligence into intellectual intelligence. And like we talked about on the previous podcast, it's like intelligence is you got to study it and you got to apply it, and then you got to go back and study again and apply it again. You got to get better and better and better.
Right. It's
not just a one-time occurrence.
Yeah. When I think decision making is really a skill.
It is.
Right? So the more you practice it, the better you will get. And at first you will probably make bad decisions, and that's okay. You will learn as you fail, and you get better at it. A few things come to mind. One is Tony Robbins saying, which is, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your decisions.
Ooh, man.
So learning how to make quality decisions, better decisions, is going to lead to better outcomes, higher satisfaction, more enjoyable life. Like all good things come from learning how to make decisions and do it better. So obviously you can't get better at doing it unless you're doing it. So again, I think the same kind of idea of start small, start with making faster decisions with where if it fails, it's very low and it doesn't matter as much, right? The consequences are low. So start at home, like picking out shirts you're gonna buy. Spend 5 seconds on that decision. If you get the wrong shirt and you don't like it, big deal. You can return it, right? Or you can buy another $10 shirt. Or I spent $10 on my shirt. So. But I'm just saying, like, it's a low stakes thing, right? Like, so practice making decisions where the stakes are low. Like picking out bed sheets, picking out shirts, all these little things. Like, don't let them eat up your time. And here's another thing on decisions: the speed at which you progress in life is directly tied to how quickly you make decisions. So the faster you learn to make decisions and learn to make quality decisions, the faster you're going to progress, whether that's in your personal life, family life, business, whatever. Like, everything sort of is stalled while you're waiting to make a decision, if you will.
Yeah.
So the faster you make them and the better you make them, the faster you're going to progress in life.
That's good, man. And talking to tradesmen and women out there, I mean, there's nothing more relatable than saying it's just like learning the trade. You have to do it, you have to apply it, right? And then you get better and better and better. And as you get better, guess what? Your quality gets better.
That's it.
But you have to put your hands on it, and you have to do it in order to get to that point. So number 3 is innovation and creativity. Foster a culture of innovation by sharing creative ideas and encouraging experimentation. Demonstrate how to think outside the box and find inventive solutions to challenges. So in order to be innovation and creativity, the first thing I think about is like that last line, find inventive solutions to challenges. The first thing we got to be looking at challenges as opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we look at challenges as a victim mentality of it's always happening to me, and there's no way out of it, then there's no way you're gonna be good at innovation and creativity. So that's the first challenge for the audience is, when you make decisions and you get out of your comfort zone, you're gonna have challenges. Guess what? It's just part of life. But are we letting those challenges beat us up, or are we saying, look, challenge, hey, opportunity,
game on.
Let's get innovative and creative. Let's figure out a solution.
That's good. Which I think, to your point, gets down to a lot of these things. I would almost put all these IQ things are built upon EQ. The more you get the EQ down, the more you can do these IQ things more effectively. To your point, like, if your attitude is so negative, you're not even going to be looking for opportunities. I mean, it's amazing how, like, when you're in a fear, negative, emotional state, it actually, I saw this TED Talk, it was wild. So this guy was talking, he pulls someone up on stage, just a random person from the audience, and he asked them to do, like, basic math. Like, and he started simple and he kind of got more complex. He's like, what's 2 plus 2? And this person's like, 4. And he's like, what's 2 plus 11? They're like 13. So, but it's kind of getting a little bit hard. And so he kind of starts going faster and a little bit harder math problems. And they start kind of getting fearful because they're in front of the audience. They didn't know that, what they were going to be doing up there. And they start being unable to answer basic questions that obviously the person knew. They're a smart person. But what it demonstrates is what happens when you're in an emotional state. You're kind of fearful, and how the emotions affect your brain. So what he was demonstrating was, when you're in those emotional states, it actually turns off the cognitive and creative parts of your brain, which is up here, the frontal part, and you start operating with the back part of your brain in a fear response. So your emotional state actually dictates what part of your brain gets activated. So if you stay in a positive mindset and you're like, okay, let's look for solutions. When you're in the positive mindset, your brain is more creative. It's wild. So it's like you're literally closing off the creative, imaginative, problem-solving parts of your brain when you're in a negative, fearful state. It's wild.
That's really cool, Nathan. Yeah, I've never thought about it like that.
Yeah.
It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
It really does. So fostering that culture, I mean, it's really just comes down to, like you said, repetition, doing it time and time again, and then, as you start to open up that opportunity to people, just making sure that it's a safe space, to be able to do that. And one of my favorite ways to do this is a dry erase board on the wall. Yeah. To me, there's nothing better than
I love that. Yeah.
Getting the markers and hitting the dry erase board. That really brings out, gets you up, gets the blood flowing, gets the creativity going, and it's very, very visual. So I think that's a really good way to do it.
It's a great way to involve your team too, right?
It is, yeah.
Build relationships, get your team involved, listen to their ideas. I guarantee your team members have all kinds of ideas that you've never even considered, which is why those sessions are so fun. You also mentioned like encouraging experimentation. I just wanted to touch on that because, you know, if you're going to foster a culture of experimentation, then obviously that means some experiments are going to fail. That's why they're experiments. So you have to be okay with the failure. And when the experiment does fail, being okay with that and learning from it instead of like berating somebody because, oh, that was a stupid idea. Why did you try that? You know, it's like, well, that's a great way to not encourage experimentation in your business, you know? So obviously you want to do this within boundaries, but I'm just saying, like, if you want to encourage that, you have to be okay with the failure, because that's the downside to experimentation, and that's okay. Like, that's fine. Being like letting everyone know that like that's okay. If you try something and it fails, great, let's learn, move on, right?
And there's no quicker way to have to do everything for everybody than to encourage experimentation, just to lose your emotional mind and blow up on them and tell them that how big of idiots they are. You better guarantee you that you'll be doing whatever that is that you delegated to them in the future. So it goes back to emotional intelligence. You got to have that emotional intelligence and knowing that, okay, I gave them this ability, I delegated this to have them accomplish it, and if they do fail it, I have to regulate my emotions and understand how to learn through that, how to work through that together as a team. Because that's a very vulnerable place they're in. That they're, you know, it's either you're building them up or you're tearing them down, and that's your decision at that moment. And it's all done through tone of voice and the words you say. It really is.
It's good.
All right, number 4, strategic thinking. Showcase your ability to see the big picture and create long-term plans. Encourage your team to align their efforts with broader organizational goals. This really goes back to what we said in number 1, right?
Yep, having the vision, having the goals. I think a key point as you're reading that, it made me think, like, you as the owner, you know, you may have the vision and goals, like, you know, on the wall in your office, which is not a great place, by the way. It should be in an open room where you do training or something. But you know, you might have something in your office. You might be looking at the goals every day on your computer, your phone. And my point is, like, you may be tuned into those, but your team may not be, right? So the key here is, like we're saying, you know, how do you lead with this? Well, you have to talk about it often. You have to show this and demonstrate it, because you have to realize that, right, like the rest of your team may not be thinking about it all the time like you are. So they're kind of, you know, their headspace around it is very different than yours. So you have to constantly communicate it.
Yeah. And when it comes to leading by example, as you learn what your vision looks like, what your core values look like, I mean, you're internalizing those. Subconsciously, you're showing it through your actions, your tone of voice, all the different things, right? But also, I agree with you. So it's already rubbing off. And but you know, starting off your meetings and pointing towards your core value and talking about why we have it, and here's a story about it, or going to your vision and sharing that with your team, or having an organizational chart that you open for everybody to see, allows that person to say, you know what, how do I get to that position? I want to get there. That actually happened to a client of mine recently.
It's good.
They put it up on the wall, just got it up there, their 3-year vision map of where the organization's going, and man, they had a person sitting there like, I'm here, how do I get to that position? That's what I want. I want to achieve that. And it's like, now you can have that conversation, because it wasn't in your mind only or on your computer only. It was out in the open for everybody to see.
Well, and that gets them excited too, right? It helps them see, oh, this is where we're going. There are opportunities here. People want to be a part of that journey and see that there's hope, that there's opportunity for them to advance as well.
That last piece there, encourage your team to align their efforts with broader organizational goals. All right, we've talked about goal setting and the importance of having that, but I really want the people that are leading organizations, it's a heavy weight of responsibility to grow an organization and to lead one. When you open up the goal setting, you allow other people to carry some of that weight. That is what it is. I mean, that's exactly what they're saying, is like, by allowing them to align some of their to-dos or their tasks or their goals with helping you achieve whatever your goals are, it actually takes some of that burden and it spreads it across everybody's shoulders. Now everybody's carrying the weight. It's not just you.
It's good.
And I think that's a really powerful way of thinking about it, because it will alleviate some of that pressure.
Yeah, so you obviously can't achieve it on your own.
So
the more you can get more people involved in understanding, I think too, like, helping people understand how what they're doing aligns with the goal. Or like, they may already be doing the right thing that's leading towards the goal, but by helping them understand it, that helps give it a broader purpose,
Mm-hmm.
a broader, so you feel more connected to what's happening into the business, right?
Mm-hmm. Number 5, continuous learning. Lead by example and seeking out opportunities for learning and development. Show that you value staying up to date with industry trends and emerging technologies. I'll ask the audience this, like, what's one area of your personal life that you're working to improve right now? You know, what's one area of your professional life that you're working to improve right now? You know, because that's going to all equal growing in your leadership. And if I ask you that question and you can't think of anything, then just know it's okay, but you should be able to think of something.
Mm-hmm.
There should be some area of your life that you're working to improve at all points. Otherwise, you're going backwards. You know, you're not growing. You're not moving in the right direction.
That's good. You're either growing or you're dying, right?
Yep.
Which I think it's a really sobering question, sobering thought. It's like, yeah, there really is no stagnant. There really is no plateau leveling off. Really, in any area of your life, you are either growing it or you are dying in that area.
Mm-hmm. And if you think you're good, that's a blind spot.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it's your ego saying, I'm good enough. And that traps you in this amateur status of realizing the world's moving on without you, whether you like it or not.
Yeah, that's good.
And eventually, whatever it is you're doing is going to outgrow your ability to do it.
Yeah, that's good. So a couple kind of practical things here for continuous learning in your business are attending conferences where you're exposed to new ideas and new ways of thinking and new technologies, which, you know, at the very least, you go to them. I would say even better if you can, bring a couple of your team members along with you. It's going to get them excited. It's going to get their buy-in. So a lot of good things can come from that. And another thing I used to do at a company I worked with, they had a book club. The vice president of the company led the book club, and we picked a book and read through it over a couple months. And I think we met maybe once a month and talked about the book or half of the book, whatever. But that's a really cheap, kind of effective way to demonstrate that you are a continuous learner and you are encouraging that within your culture, within everybody in your company. And it's also a great way to build relationships and see other people's perspectives. Just a lot of good things that can come from that. And that's a relatively easy thing to do.
It's a good point. Yeah, book club is
simple
really
book club.
That is really a good point. And going back to the conference thing, it's like sometimes it's not even about the information being delivered at the conference. It's just about the whole experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's about just investing that time, that money, that energy, going out, surrounding yourself with other people who are hungry to get better.
That's right.
Really what it boils down to, and it will keep you up to date with those emerging trends and things that are happening. And when I think about continuous learning, and I think about, like, if you choose to be, okay, this is who I am, I'm digging my heels in the sand, I'm never going to change. I deal with that a lot of times every day in the trades. Like, there's trades business owners today that still don't know how to send an email. And they've been doing it. They're like, well, I've been in business 30 years. Why should I have to learn how to send an email?
Yeah.
Eventually, the business is outgrowing your ability to run it if you don't know how to turn a computer on and send an email.
That's good.
You know what I mean? And so, yeah, you can surround yourself with people who can do it, but you're not going to be as effective as a leader if you don't at least try.
Yeah.
At least put your best foot forward to learn those things. And some people are forever okay with that. But it's a decision that you make, and you can't complain about it. You just got to understand the world's moving on without you. It's just, are you able to see that and either be okay with it, or see it and be okay, and then actually challenge yourself to learn new things and try new things.
That's good.
And that's, and even, like, I'm talking about from an owner level, but even a team member level, the people that get you to this level aren't always people that get you to this level. And it's not because they're bad people.
Right.
Sometimes it's because it's their IQ, it's their EQ, it's their ability to get out of their comfort zone and learn and try something new. And sometimes people are just okay being what they are, and sometimes that works and sometimes that doesn't work. And so once you're clear on what your organizational growth looks like, and you're clear on what each role demands or is required, then at that point it's easy to make those decisions.
Yeah, and it may become very clear that that person was with you for a season and they don't need to be there for the next season, and that's okay.
That's okay.
You've seen that happen, several examples of
Yeah,
that happening,
yeah.
right? Like once you get that clarity and you really see it, it helps it become more clear who's aligned with us and who's not, and who's willing to align with them and who is not. And sometimes that's okay. Like that means you got to move on.
And in this day and age, there's no excuse for not learning.
Yeah.
There's podcasts. Hey, we're on a podcast right now.
Yeah.
You're obviously listening to us. You're learning, right?
You're a learner.
There's YouTube. I love getting YouTube certified.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
YouTube out there. There's
Yeah.
audio books you can listen to. There's
So
you can
many
be
things.
reading. There's just so many different things that areas that you can dive into. And I just want to encourage you, like, learning could be as simple as just reading a Bible verse, or it could be a quote that you saw, right? Or it could be just going to a group and surrounding yourself with the right people. Or it could be as big as reading a whole book from cover to cover.
Yeah.
Which is pretty daunting for a lot of people, especially like a lot. It is. Some people don't read a book since they left high school.
Yeah.
Right. But hey, there's a challenge for you.
There you go.
Is you can get a lot of education this day and age by doing any of these things.
As you're saying that, it reminds me of, because I'm YouTube certified golfer, and so I've been working on my drive the last couple of years, and figuring some things out, and then which is good.
Yeah.
And this is a plug for why it's good to get an outside perspective sometimes. But my son is taking some golf lessons, so I was standing there and with the pro, and I asked him, "Hey, look at my drive, help me with that." And within like 5 seconds, he corrected 2 or 3 things that have helped my drive tremendously. And it's just amazing what, like, you think you understand things because you're watching on YouTube, right? But then when a professional assesses you, they're like, immediately, here's 3 things you need to change. It's amazing, like, how that experience can translate into like real results for you, and put some of those ideas you have about how this works that you learned from YouTube into real life. So it's kind of a plug for you and the coaching that you do. Like, I think it's good to be a continuous learner, like we're saying, but sometimes it's hard to know, okay, I learned like these 5 things, do I need to apply all these 5 things? And like you would come in and assess the business and go, no, like you're too early for these 2 things, but these 3 things, yes, so focus over here. And then you don't waste your time. So that's where the power of like having an outside expert can help you with that stuff that you're learning, which is good, but like knowing when to apply certain things and how it works in your business specifically can really be invaluable.
Yeah, that's really true, Nathan. That's really, really true. That perspective is just different.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, like, one of the best golf tips is just keep your eye on the ball. Just keep your head down, right? Like, that's one of the most basic golf tips, but that applies to any area of your life when you think about it. It's like, sometimes you just need to go back to the basics. And you need to just go back to the basics. It may be in your marriage, it could be in your business, it could be in your friendship relationships that you're struggling with. Like, what's the basics? And sometimes I like to ask people, it's like, was there a time in this timeline that you've given me that you did it really well? And sometimes there is. Like, there was this peak time where it was a really good time in their lives. And then I asked, what was different then?
Right.
What were you doing different then? And a lot of times that sparks that emotion, and then sometimes they never did it well. And sometimes, and that's when you gotta work at a different lens. There is, okay, you've never done it well. Now let's figure out what it's going to take to do it well. And so anyways, we're getting deep here, but learning, continuous learning, leadership development is a lifelong journey. And if you see it as a destination, you're going to be really disappointed.
Yeah.
Because, there is no destination. And if you think you've hit the destination, you stop learning and the world's already passed you by.
That's right.
And so every day, the opportunity just to say, today's a new day. I'm going to give myself grace from yesterday. I'm going to learn something new. It could be I went an extra rep on my workout, or I read an extra 10 minutes, or I put my phone away 10 minutes earlier and I was present with this person, or whatever it is that you want to improve upon. Maybe it's your attitude. Today I'm going out with a positive attitude. Those are going to be things that you have to choose to do. You don't have to. That you need to choose to do every day, but it's just focusing on one area helps you improve as a leader. And I guess what I'm getting to the long way around is it's really all about just embracing the journey. and realizing that that's what we're all on. We're on this journey.
It's good.
All right, awkward silence again. The journey. Anything else you want to cover?
Nope.
Shut it down. All right, well, thank you all for tuning in to our 3-part series. This is part 2, so stay tuned for one more part where we're going to be talking about really leading through adversity. Now that you know what emotional intelligence looks like and intellectual intelligence looks like, we just encourage you that if you listen this long, hopefully you've taken the time to leave us a 5-star review, but if you haven't, we would love for you to do that. And then we just want to remind you that at builtforthetrades.com we have free resources. If y'all need anything, reach out to us. We're here to help you, and we hope you have an amazing day.